App Planning for Success. Brought to you by Software Accelerator Playbook. On Instagram at S.A.Playbook. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we are talking about ideas mean nothing. How does that work? What's going on here? So let's unpack it. What I'm talking about here is that ideas only, by themselves, are like seeds, unplanted. And if you just have an idea and you do nothing with it, it has no value. It can be fun to think about. It can be, a fun little thought exercise. It can, probably bring some joy. But ultimately, the idea is not what gets you down the road. The action is what gets you down the road. And typically, the idea is what will prompt you enough to start taking action. So it's not that the idea needs to be great out the gate. It's that the idea needs to be there in order for you to then say, you know what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to start building. I'm going to start planning. I'm going to start, just going down this road and trying to figure it out. That by getting there, what getting there means, what getting to success means, is that you're spending a lot of time, that you've spent a lot of time on, how am I going to help people? How am I going to solve problems? What's the way that I'm going to solve the problem? What's the method? What's the mechanism? How am I going to find these people? How am I going to tell these people that I'm helping them solve their problem? And, all this stuff, it starts with an idea, but the idea isn't the end of it. And the idea by itself is worthless, because if there's no action on top of an idea, it's just like a seed up on the shelf. The seed is representing a huge redwood tree, but without given the right dirt being planted, the right sun, the right water, and the right amount of time, it's not there. It hasn't bloomed. It's not even close to what it could be. So if you're trying to keep your ideas safe, I hear this a lot, this idea, you're trying to keep ideas safe, and you keep the seed up on the shelf, well, yeah, the idea will be safe. Nobody will take it if it's up on the shelf, although, how many times I feel like I've had an idea and then, 2 years later I've seen somebody else do something about it, right? So it's not like the idea that you have will be, will pop into your mind and your mind alone, and nobody else will ever find it, and it'll be safe, safe on your shelf where nobody else will touch it. That there's lots of other people that are helping people, and now more than ever, people are, launching new things and building new apps and helping people solve problems, more ever than in history, in terms of now we have technology to build all these solutions, and we have all these marketing pipelines to be able to attract people. There's so much room for, even as there's so many people building, there's so much room for new ideas and to help people specifically within their jobs or within their businesses try to get things done. Or then even personally, if you're doing like a B2C app, business to consumer app. So basically the idea of this podcast is to clarify that ideas by themselves, it's just a starting point. And how many times have you heard a story? Well, let me speak for myself. I've heard so many stories of people that have started and then pivoted, that their first idea isn't the actual thing they're going to build, but the first idea was good enough for them to get up and start moving. So theoretically, you can actually start without an idea. I mean, there's plenty of people that decide to start just by focusing on, who do I want to serve? And then you start, interviewing those people and finding out what they're dealing with and finding out what their struggles are and what their problems are and how you're able to help them. So some people don't even have like a light bulb moment in terms of like, oh, I want to make an app that does this. It's more about, I want to serve this type of person. So if you are, finding yourself either without an idea, but still, wanting to build something, in which case then you need to look deeper at the exact niche you want to serve and go on a hunt to find problems that they are dealing with. This is no different than research. This is having conversations. Hey, what software do you use? Hey, what kind of frustrations do you have? Hey, where do you waste a lot of your time? Those kinds of questions going to a specific person in a specific niche will be helpful to kind of give you an insight into, what they're dealing with and how their lives can be improved. But if you have an idea and you are, you're ultimately, wanting to move that forward, but then you're scared that somebody else is going to steal it, keep in mind that there's really only two directions. It's either you act on it, and if you act on it, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, there's always something that's going to go wrong. There's always, some danger that somebody will steal your idea. And then keep in mind, after you launch it, the same thing can happen. And once it launches and then people see it and they go, oh, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I mean, think Uber and Lyft, right? I mean, they're both doing basically the same thing. And there's other car rideshare apps as well, but they're both doing the same thing. And then what about Instagram Reels and TikTok? What about Instagram Stories and Snapchat? There's even these big companies, they'll come up with an idea and then another big company will just say, we'll take that. And so then off and running, then you've got to be different. You've got to be differentiated. You've got to be, focused on your own, unique differences compared to the other person. And then also, just attracting enough people that bring value to the platform that make other people want to join the platform. And really, ultimately, if you're building an app that helps solve a problem for somebody, then if that person comes into your ecosystem and is helped by it, then they're probably not going to go be searching for all these other ways to solve their problem. If you're solving their problem, they're not on the hunt to go find 10 other softwares that can do the same thing. They found you solve their problem, they're happy with you, and they're good. Now, if they're not happy, if they then start to get really frustrated with something, then maybe they go on a hunt to find a competitor. But ultimately, if you bring them in and you have a solution that gives them success, then that's it. You've given them success, they're paying for success, they're happy with it. If there's other things that might break that in terms of, maybe your costs are too high, maybe, there's issues with support, whatever it is, whatever the issue may be, maybe they'll have trouble and then go start looking. But ultimately, they're not, once people have their problem solved, they're not like itching to go like try to solve the problem again. They're happy it's solved, and then they're going to work on other things to be solved. But this idea of fear, I hear this idea all the time, and it's fear. It's the idea of moving into entrepreneurship is fear. And I get it. I totally get it. There's so much fear that I've had to overcome, push through, look over, jump over. I still to this day I'm dealing with fear, and it's not something that necessarily just poof vanishes. It's the idea of choosing to kind of go against it, even as it's trying to control. And so with entrepreneurship, as you want to move forward with an idea, like, yes, there's certain things you can do to protect yourself, but there's also a vulnerability just in existing as an entrepreneur in this world. That, like, even if nobody steals your idea, it's still vulnerable because there's going to be money wasted, there's going to be miscommunication issues, there's going to be frustrations, there's going to be fires to put out, there's going to be angry customers, there's going to be, you're going to be tired of it, you're going to be sick of it at some points, you're going to be, there's all, I mean, it's humans doing things. So there's going to be a range of emotions for, even the best job in the world is going to have its problems. And being an entrepreneur, you actually theoretically have more problems because you're dealing with the whole scope of it versus if you just get a salary job and you're focused on just one piece of it and you don't need to also worry about, the customer acquisition and the marketing and the whatever else, but you can just focus on your piece. So it is more difficult to be an entrepreneur, but then you also have, a big a taste of the upside that when things are really going really well, then you win. And if you work harder and you outwork other people, then you will get more of the reward versus if you're salaried and you outwork and outwork and outwork, yes, you will get promoted, but you probably won't get a bigger share of that upside. You'll get a portion of it, but you won't get all of it. And then in terms of, designing your own time and things like that. So back to the idea of the idea. If you've got an idea and you're trying to keep it safe, you have to realize that eventually, it's not going to build itself. And even if you put a ton of energy behind it, it's still like pushing a train out of the station. It's not going to budge at first. It doesn't just fly out of the station. It's not like you're hopping on this slide and you just go and you go and you go. It's pushing at the beginning. It's doing a lot of work at the beginning to figure out, what actually are we making? How are we making it? What obstacles are we running into that we have to overcome? There's a lot of logistics that have to just kind of be sorted out. And if you are, if you're scared of moving forward, if there's a difficulty there in terms of just being fearful that something's going to be stolen, keep in mind that that's not the end of the things to be scared of, right? I mean, with entrepreneurship, right? There's a lot more things to be scared of too. That, what if you're doing the wrong thing? What if you're wasting your energy in the wrong direction? What if you're wasting your money and your time, promoting the thing? What if you're, forget anybody stealing your app. What if nobody wants it? Right? What if the real problem is that you build something that people don't want and that nobody steals your idea, but you spend a lot of money and time and then nobody wants it? That sucks too. That's really frustrating too. So it's not just this one thing, this only thing of like, oh, I just don't want anybody to steal my idea. There's plenty of things that could go wrong, but that's part of the bundle, being an entrepreneur. That's part of the scenario, that in the midst of adversity, you rise up and you pursue the idea. That in the midst of, thinking that things could go wrong, you still move forward. It's wanting it enough that you decide to take action that gets you there. Now, some people need a really good idea to get them going, right? Some people need a really good idea to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And that serves as the impetus to get going, to get started, which gets the conversation rolling, which then the idea can be refined, the process can be refined, all the ideas within that main idea can be scrutinized and then updated and optimized. But ultimately, it serves as that first push to get out the gate. And then once you're out the gate, then you might realize, oh, I was actually thinking about it in the wrong way, or, oh, somebody else is doing the same thing, so now I need to, pivot or twist, whether I'm holding on to the core idea and serving a different group of people, or whether I'm holding on to the certain group of people and I'm changing, how I'm serving them, or I'm changing, the problem that I'm solving for them. But ultimately, it's just the beginning part. It's planting the seed. And once you plant the seed, then you've got to be ready to pivot. You've got to be ready to give it water and food every day. You've got to be ready to be consistent. And you've also got to be ready to be patient. That in putting in the energy daily, it's not going to shoot out of the ground. No train, as far as I know, leaves the station at 100 miles per hour. It picks up speed. No seed, as far as I know, shoots out of the ground to become a tree. It starts as a seedling. It goes slow. Now, it goes consistent, so it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And eventually, then 3 years later, you look back and you say, holy cow, how did that thing get so big? I remember when it wasn't even there. So with consistency comes a certain type of power that by showing up every day and putting down that energy in the same spot and looking at that seed and growing that seed and growing that seed and growing that seed, eventually it's not a seed anymore. So that's the wonderful part of it. Once you stick with it long enough, once you put energy and focus towards that one thing enough, it gets there. It grows. All the decisions you made start to pay off. But as it's being built, it's not necessarily going to be pretty. It's not necessarily going to be this whole thing where you plant the seed and all of a sudden you're like, yes, I'm winning. It's not like that. It's hard work, and then you start to see the payoff. The payoff comes later. The payoff comes once the stuff starts growing, but you've got to do this legwork at the beginning to get it going. And so as you plant your idea, as you move forward with your idea, you can get there, but you just have to be willing to push through and to stay consistent. I hope this was helpful to you. If you are looking for help to move your app forward, whether you're looking for the planning side of it, blueprinting, or whether you've kind of already got a project going and you need to bring more people in, so you need help with marketing, please hit me up on Instagram, S.A.Playbook.com, S.A.Playbook.com is my website, but hit me up on Instagram, Instagram.com/S.A.Playbook, and hit the send message and get the conversation started. Thank you for being here. Talk to you tomorrow.